So take two. We're gonna try this again. All right. I had to stop the video that I was previously making because I, along with my emotions being all over the place, I'm not getting everything correct. And that is something that I want to make sure that I do, especially because, you know, everything that has happened. So let's try this again. um, and I'm probably going to try to break this up as I go along. So if there are pauses, that's me, you know, stopping because I need to try to, you know, think about the minutes and stuff like that, you know, per video. Anyway, so let's start from the beginning. And excuse me, I know in a lot of my videos, y'all see me scratching my face. I have bad allergies. And also I apologize for the way that I look, but this is what stress will do you. From the other videos to now, the type of stress that I've been under has caused these dark circles, shit, these bags, this acne. It's been pretty bad. So yeah. But anyway, so let's start with how I came about these tickets. So I experienced, first of all, I experienced last night the experience that is Theresa Caputo. Excuse me, Caputo. I don't know, or I don't remember, I should say, what I was doing, where I was, when this happened. You know, I wasn't thought about my mom, though. I do remember that. And I remember being on my phone. I was doing something. And, you know, when you on the internet, you know, you looking at reels and stuff like that, ads and stuff come up. So her, it said that she was coming to, you know, the Horseshoe, which is in Indiana, like right across the border. And, you know, at that time, I didn't really have, like, I had not gotten paid or anything. So I was like, you know, should I even click on it? And I just said, fuck it. You know, I kind of felt like, I don't know. It was kind of like a kismet situation, you know, about, you know, why I clicked on, because honestly, I could see stuff that I want or want to participate in, and it's like if I can't afford it, then I'm just not gonna do it, right? So I just said, fuck it, let me just click on and see. So, you know, because I was thinking, like I said, I was in thought about my mom, you know, which I often am. And I clicked on. I started looking, you know, at the seating, and I started looking at, you know, the pricing and stuff like that. And I noticed that all the bottom, all the the floor was sold out. And so, you know, I was like, okay, you know, let me try to, like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to get good seats. I'm going to get, you know, where I know that, you know, Theresa won't, you know, have to, you know, hike a country mile, you know, to get to me, to get to yours, you know. Like, I don't want that, because, you know, Theresa, she walking around them 6-inch heels and stuff like that. And it's like, girl, you know, I'm not trying to have her catch a cramp or nothing like that trying to get to me, you know. So, you know, I was thinking about her, Theresa. And her walking. So anyway, you know, I purchased the tickets, and thank God for Afterpay, because honestly, you know, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it without it, you know, just because of where I was, you know, in the month, having just paid all my bills and stuff like that. So, excuse me, I bought these tickets back in late June, I want to say. Um, and it, like I explained, it's just so funny how she popped up in a time where I was just like so heavy in thought on my mom, and I always said that I wanted Theresa to read me, because before all this even happened with my mom, I have family members, that I miss and I love dearly, and that um, I would love to hear from. I would have loved to hear from. Um, and I would watch Theresa's programs all the time, and I would be like, oh my God, I would just love to be able to hear from my granny or my aunt. Those are the two women, I've had so many family members pass away. I was like, but these two women I would love to have heard from, or hear from, you know. Um, and, like I would just imagine and, just think and put that energy, out in the world, that one day I'm going to run into Theresa Caputo. So, of course, it never happens. It's like winning a lottery or some shit like that, right? Um, but so in the I bought the tickets, and you gonna have to excuse me because I'm gonna do a lot of digressing. Like that's just me. I have ADHD real bad. Um, so I do a lot of you know. But anyway, so I had bought the tickets in late June, I believe. And it's funny because leading up to last night, um, so many strange things have been happening in this house. Um, it's crazy to explain, but I think a rational person would just be like, it's just normal stuff, but it just didn't feel normal, right? So, um, there was a situation that happened, um, like maybe 3 weeks to a month ago. Yours had told me about. She was like, she was sitting, because right now she's like house ridden. She has a situation going on with her leg, um, and her ankle, and it's hard for her to to walk and stuff like that. So right now she's out, she's out of commission right now. And so she was sitting here, um and she mind her business watching TV, and she said out of nowhere she felt a like kind of a like that on the couch while she was sitting there, and I'm at work, you know so she said, basically she looked at me, and she when she was telling me this, and she was like, girl, I think that was your mama. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, maybe it's, your imagination or whatever, because mind you, like, okay, so I didn't tell you. So initially, why I bought these tickets, I actually bought these tickets for her. It wasn't just for me. It was actually for her that I bought these tickets, because she had lost her mother, some years ago. And um, that was one of the very many issues that actually caused our breakup, um, when all of that happened. So, you know, we've since, reconciled. It took a while for us to reconcile, but we trying to get that we trying to get back there. So anyway, when I purchased these tickets, I purchased them with the you know with the intent that this was for her healing, to help her out, and that's where my heart was, right? So, you know, she telling me, this is a little while later, that the whole, thump happened on the couch or whatever, and you'll see how that ties back into, um, you know, the whole situation. Why I mentioned that right now. Um, so then a few weeks ago, or a couple of weeks ago, she also mentioned to me that she was, once again, she was here because again, she's house ridden. Um, and she said, Peaches, I know you closed the door. You closed the bedroom door. Now my doors are like this really heavy oak wood, so it makes a noise when you open and you close them, right? It's not like, regular doors. Like these are real heavy doors. So she was like, I know you closed that door this morning. She's like, because I went back there and I closed Hermione's door and I closed the office door. And she said she was sitting up there minding her business yet again. And she said she heard the door open and close. And she said, child, I don't, I look, I can't deal. So she was like kind of freaking out. So we just like going back and forth, like having, this dialogue or whatever, you know, and conversing about the situation, and it's like, we were like, we're getting closer and closer to, um, this date, to see, Theresa. And then, you know, with the internet, um, we have Xfinity. And so I have like the top package. So, my internet speed, like I shouldn't have no problems with it or whatever, right? But I do stay in the suburbs, I stay in the west suburbs. And I know sometimes, you can have issues, but it's crazy how many issues we were having with the TVs. It was fucking crazy. Because it got to a point where even I said something, and it took me back to when we were, like living, before I bought this house. We were living in an apartment, and boy, we used to have all types of issues, you know, in that apartment because it was just trash. But I think it was mainly because that building was all concrete. So I had not, since I bought this house, I had not really had that type of issue here because it's not a concrete building. There's concrete, there's bricks, but it's not like cinder blocks like throughout the house. So, I never really had that issue since we've been here. And it got so bad that I even mentioned something, and I really never really mentioned anything until it gets like really, really bad. And it's like, shit, okay, now it's getting on my nerve. Like, and I'm like, I don't want to call them because anybody that has Xfinity knows why I don't want to call them and complain about my internet. So anyway, I just chalked it up to it's Xfinity. Okay. Then I'm watching TV and I notice like flickering, or I could be in the middle of something and then it will completely, like a whole nother program will come on, in the middle of what I'm watching. Like it just cut off, And I'm just like, what the, like, wait a minute. I was just watching it. Like, how did it go from, I ain't pressed nothing. And it happened a few times when me and Eurus was laying here, we watching TV or whatever, and it would happen. Sometimes, it'll just pause. Like I know one time she was like, helping me do my hair, and we up front, doing whatever, and the TV just pauses. I don't know it just pauses. The remote is sitting right there on the table, but it just paused. And we had to get the remote to start it back up. Then it stopped. Like it went off. Like it, like it shut off. Like the power had been shut off. Looking at each other like, what is going on? Like, what is happening? So that happened, um, that happened like these last 2 weeks, because it's been going on for about pretty much since I bought the tickets. But these last couple of weeks, baby, it's been something else. So we get to yesterday. So now I'm going to pause it and I'll start. Okay. So I had to, because when I first started like making this video, I was kind of like all over the place. My emotions was all over the place. My speech was all over the place. Like I'm just like just a basket case with everything. So nothing made sense. So I had to remake the video. I had to write everything down so that I can kind of like go through everything, because I didn't want to, mess up an order, or I didn't want to mess up, the way things happen or what was said, So again, nothing is like verbatim. It's just kind of like, how I remember it, I don't even know if it's going to end up on TV or not, to be honest with you. I don't know, but I know I was being videotaped. So, okay. So, I'm going to start off with Theresa. She got on stage. She, did her little spiel or whatever. And mind you, I had been, chanting and talking and praying, that I want my mom to come through. I want my mom. I've been saying that basically since I bought the tickets. But, yesterday, all day yesterday, I was like really in heavy thought about her coming through. Like I really wanted her to come through. And then thoughts of, what if she don't come through? Because there's so many of us. And it's like, damn, what if she don't come through? So I was just like really trying to focus my energy and open myself up energetically so that she would feel it. So she started off, with her little spiel that she do. And she started off down at the floor. She, started making her way, down and then over. And then she got to a couple that had lost their son due to like a baseball incident. He was in T-ball. And I'm gathering, I'm not for sure, but I'm gathering that he was hit in the chest. And that's, what happened. So Theresa, while she's doing, what she, does, she mentioned that souls have a tendency to do like this tether thing, where one spirit goes get another spirit, and sometimes that spirit, while she's talking to one, another one might pop up and kind of tether the whole situation together or something like that. Obviously I don't know nothing about that, but yeah, that's how she basically said it. So she's talking to that family down below, and I see her kind of like her back, like she was up there with them, and then she started walking back, and then she kind of like turned her body a little bit, right? And then she's still talking to him, but she's like, I see her body. Now earlier, like in the show, she had mentioned, she was like, not to be rude, not to be disrespectful, but she's like, whoever I'm talking to, whatever spirit I am talking to, no matter what somebody might be saying, Theresa, it's me, Theresa, it's me. She's like, I'm not trying to be rude or anything. It's not that I don't hear you. It's just that I have to focus on spirit that I'm speaking to in the moment. I understood that, so there were so many times that I thought that she might be alluding to me, specifically with the numbers, number 6, 7. She threw out, 13, and it was it was weird. She even mentioned something about a song, You Are My Sunshine. And, it's funny because in the moment, it's like, it was like this nagging feeling about that song. Like, it's not something, like, I know my mom has said that. She has sung that. But it's, it wasn't like a main song. Like, there are songs I I think might have been like better suited, but it was one. So of course, everybody's like, Teresa, it's me, Teresa, it's me, and I'm just like, nah, I ain't about to, that I'm not gonna be one of those. Like, if it's for me, it's going to be for me. So she's gathering, to finish talking to the couple, and that spirit had tethered the spirit of a young boy, whose mother was sitting, not that far away from me, in the, like, to the left of me, a little ways over, but just like a row up, or a row down, whether. And she eventually moved up here. Me, and while she was walking, me and yours was like, oh my gosh, she's coming up here, she's coming up here. And I just like, I opened myself up energetically, like, more. Like, I wanted, I'm like, oh my God, somebody bring my mama forward. Somebody, I'm screaming, somebody go get my mama. Because I really wanted to hear from her. She was talking to the young lady about her son, because he had passed away from a brain tumor. And just listen to her story. It was just like heartbreaking, just like all the rest. It was just heartbreaking, But again, this is energy, that when you open yourself up to, the circumstances of other people, you you soak it up. And I'm an empath, right? So that only made me stronger in, trying to suss out my mom. So she finished with the lady, and it looked like she was getting ready to go downstairs. And then she turned around, and she looked dead, like, she looked over in our direction, and she said, who's the mother? Who's the mother with the daughter? And, yours was like, okay, it could be you. I don't know. And she was like, yeah, all I hear is tragedy. And we looked at each other, and she was like, yeah, the mother is stepping forward. There's a mother figure stepping forward, and all I hear is tragedy. It was a tragedy, the way my death happened. And then she said, you in the purple. Me and yours looked at each other. I looked over to my left, and I looked over to my right. I looked behind me. I said, who the fuck is wearing purple? And then I looked down at my shirt, and I said, I'm wearing purple. I said, oh shit. I said, oh my God. Oh my God. I lost my shit. Completely lost my shit. I started crying. I started damn near hyperventilating. I was shaking. And it's funny because the lady that was before me, the one with the son that had the tumor, she was saying how she probably shouldn't have been there, because she was just getting over a cold. So when Theresa was like, give her the mic, I said, I don't want that mic. Because anybody that knows me knows that I'm a germaphobe. Like, I'm a serious germaphobe. Like, I can't. And so I was like, I'm like, you got some Germ-X or something? Like, some hand sanitizer? And she was like, oh, you're one of those. And I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. And she was like, yeah, don't worry about it. She's like, I got you covered. She was like, we're going to get you a new disinfectant mic and everything. So they got me a disinfectant. They got me a disinfectant mic. And she came over. And this is where I'm going to refer to my notes. So if you see me, reading, that's what I'm doing. Because again, I don't want to I don't want to like mess up anything. And this is just, this is just, you know, from my recollection. I could have things wrong. I could have things mixed up. I can have, you know, the way things happen. They could be, you know, um, in the wrong order. I mean, I don't know. I'm just like, that's why I had to write it down, because I wanted to remember everything that, that was being said. So Theresa calls me out. She's like, you in the purple, lady in the purple. So she made her way around. I got the disinfected mic, and she was like, there's a mother figure stepping forward, and she wants to say she's sorry. She said, your mom is coming through and she wants you to know that her death was not of her own making, and that she's sorry about how things, you know, played out. And so I start crying more, you know, because I'm like, oh my God. So, you know, yours, we holding hands, and you know, she's like we holding each other like tight, because this is actually happening, and it seems so unreal, you know. So the thing that you know, so she wanted me to know that she was okay, but the thing that, you know, that made us like really like know that it was her, you know, she had said that not to be mad at God, um and that, you know, if she wants, if I want to be mad at her, be mad at her, but not be mad at God. She mentioned that, you know, the last time we spoke, that I was really upset with her, and that was like one of the last times. It wasn't the last time, but it was one of the last times that I had spoke with her. And I think I mentioned that in one of my other videos, you know, so you would have to actually go back and watch the video and, you know, like find out, because I'm not gonna do it here. But what stuck was, she said she was sorry, and that I had warned her not to let him back in the house. And child, when she said that, I almost jumped out of my seat. I almost jumped out of my seat, y'all, like, because that was that argument that happened before the last time I talked to her, the night that she went to the store, the night everything happened. When she said that, I was like just in awe, and yours is like, that's your mom, Peaches. And so I have, when I said something before that she's sorry about the pain that I am going through, and that I have been going through, that, you know, basically because she caused that, you know. And she said, my daughter hasn't had any peace, you know, since this happened, and that she's basically had everything bottled up inside. She's not been able to release anything, which is true, because, and I'm gonna put a pin there, so let me mark that. So, because basically, when everything went down, I initially made videos after my mom passed, and after my dad passed, and in between, you know. I was in a state of wanting to not just release, but release out of anger, out of vengeance, out of trying to clear my name, because it was some dirty shit that was happening, that had happened with all of this, and it wasn't on my behalf that it happened. So that'll be in another video that I make, because I am gonna make it, because after last night, like, I feel like I was given permission to be free, period. So she mentioned that my mom was saying that she was sorry that she hid what was happening, and she never thought that it would go the way that it did. She never expected, basically, for her life to end. And that, because I had everything, like, bottled up, she was like, you don't have to disclose that, if you don't want to. She was like, oh, and I ain't even got this wrote down. I forgot. She was like, cause I in the beginning, she was like, I taste blood. She was like, I'm tasting blood. She said, and it's something with the head, and that's crazy, because you'll see as everything, like I'm gonna tie everything together. So, basically she said she was sorry about what was happening. She never thought it would go the way that it did. And when she said that, I had been keeping things bottled up, that I hadn't been able to talk about it, I screamed out that my brother killed my mother. And so I have, when I said something before that she said sorry about the pain that I had been going through, she basically in that moment was saying that, that she knows that basically her hiding or not, divulging what was going on, that was basically the cause of how everything happened, because she would not let me in. Like, sometimes, well, most times, when things would be happening in that house, I wouldn't find out about it until weeks later, sometimes months later, because my dad conditioned her to, my dad was a person of what goes on in this house stays in this house. And, he abused my mother mentally and verbally, and it was always verbally, but, mentally, I think, before all of this even happened, when, it's constantly a thing about, a husband commenting on weight, or how, she dresses, or, how she carries herself, and, all this, that's verbal abuse, and it's mental abuse. But it's something that me and her went through, in our life, because that's how he was, I'm not bashing my father, at all. I don't even want to, because while I am, still very disheartened about how things played out, and the fact that he, abetted my brother the way that he did, I've come to terms with, I just don't know that he wanted to do better. I think he was so stuck in protecting his son, because that's what he's always done. My brother has never had to face any consequences for anything that he's ever done, ever. Anytime my brother was in trouble, got in trouble, caused trouble, shit, trouble came knocking on the door in the middle of the night at 2 o'clock in the morning one time. you know. So yeah, my dad constantly bailed him out, constantly, and he knew how to get things out of my dad. He knew how to get money out of my dad, you know. And I don't think he ever fully developed, which is crazy because he has a degree, you know, um, which again, goes to why I questioned his diagnosis, you know, um, even now, because literally, like, the boy, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off. Like, I'm telling you, it will be, it's been a situation. If I didn't know my brother and if I didn't know how he was and what was going on, um, I would have thought that I was crazy for even bringing it up. Like, I've actually heard him talk to the police. Like, he had some sense about him. Like, it's complete change, complete, just, very, very professional, very, like, college educated, because he was, and is, and, like, completely just to avoid trouble, right? And yeah, like, that's that's how he was. So, when things would happen and the verbal abuse would happen, and the mental abuse happened, um it eventually all came out. It's funny because I used to get looked at. I used to get looked at like I was the crazy one, because I don't want to make it seem like mine and my father's relationship was the best, because it wasn't. We have literally had knockdown, drag out fights because I got to a point in my life where I was tired of him beating me, literally beating me. And I'm not talking about no whipping. I'm talking about fists. I'm talking about buckles, not the belt, buckles. Like, people would always, family would always think that it was my fault. It was me. I'm causing a problem, and I would always try to tell them, like, no, like, the type of conditioning and mental shit that I went through growing up, and being made to think that I am, like, I'm just horrible, like, because I already knew I was a handful, but to be made to feel like what I was feeling, what I was going through didn't matter. I thought about all of that, and I'm like, my mom was getting it worse. She was getting it worse. So anyway, let me go back to my notes. So she's channeling my mom, and my mom said that she was sorry that she hid what was happening. She never thought it would go the way that it did. She then she then went into, like, I can't remember exactly what it was that she said, but I remember like screaming about it, and I think this was like before I screamed out, my brother killed my mom. And I can't remember exactly what was said, but I do remember that once all that came out, I remember saying to Theresa, like, I just wish I knew what happened that night, because I had already came up with what I thought happened, after piecemealing everything together. I had started like putting things together after that initial phone call that I made to yours when I was in the emergency room, when she told me about my mom, and the black eye, and how they form and how bruises form. And essentially what I walked away from with it was that night I had talked to my mom, had called me, and she said that her and my dad were on their way out. My cousin was taking them to Sam's, to get supplies for the house or whatever, and and again, this is me. This is what I form, my opinion of what I formed. I'm not even talking about what Theresa ended up saying, but that night when they came back from the store, and knowing Mika, helped them into the house, and my brother wasn't gonna cause a ruckus while she was there. He would never, because it was gonna be, it would have been some shit. So he had to have waited until Mika left and started in on them about money again. It's always the money with him. And I formed my opinion of, my mom must have said to him no, and it caused an argument. It caused a big argument, and somewhere in that night, it got out of hand, and he hit her. The thing that will always sit with me is that they let her lay there. They let her lay there all night, all morning, and finally, when they realized that she wasn't, active, wasn't getting up, wasn't really moving, then they decided to call the police, which explains the black eye. So when I was told initially about her being, like having fell in the tub, and that whole story, again, that's in the other video, like the whole thing about how it happened or whatever, when I finally was able to like piecemeal everything together, me realizing that my dad was complicit in the whole thing, not getting proper medical attention when it first happened, letting her body shut down, and not getting her any help, and then the police are called, the ambulance is called, and then the story was concocted. So now we're back to Theresa. So, and now I'm going back to my notes right now. So Theresa then says that there was a huge argument, which I knew it was. Everything went wrong. A lot of bad things were said. It was about money. My mom told my brother to get out of the house, and that's when he hit her. She said that she thinks that he didn't know or expect that it was anything serious. He just thought that she would be okay, until he realized that it wasn't. Earlier in that reading, my mom had came through and said that she was sorry that she didn't listen to me, but that also, um, she had said, don't let him back in the house. Like, because that was part of that argument. And, you know, as she's saying all of this, and I'm playing it all back in my head, I'm like, everything that I came to with my conclusion about how things happen, Theresa basically solidified that. She also said that she never realized or expected anything like this to happen or to cause her death. She didn't think that that would happen. And, you know, waterworks. Like, all this is happening, and I'm talking about eyes red, mascara running. Like, I'm my mama is talking to me, y'all. My mama is talking to me. And she is validating everything that I have felt, everything that I have been going through, everything that I have been dealing with. I have separated myself from family over this situation because it has gotten so bad, so messy, so fucked up. And it is just amazing the way people act when death is on the table. Again, this is gonna be another video, and that's gonna be that video. Like I said, my mama gave me clearance to let it fly because this is about my healing. This is about me letting go. This is about me unburdening myself, because I have been burdening myself with everything. I have held everything to my chest. And you know, when things happen, sometimes you talk to people, but you don't want to like bring nobody down into your bullshit, so you give certain pointers and things of of the situation, but you don't go into complete and total debt. So there are only a few people outside of family that know what happened and how it happened, because especially after I put things together and I gave my opinion on how I think things went. So I'm gonna go to my notes. She said that she wanted me to know that she was proud of me, and that she says my daughter, in that accent that she has made some questionable choices, and in a time in that moment when she said that, all I could do was laugh, because I have since she's passed, I've gone through a breakup, trying to find myself, and a rekindling, and in the midst of all of that, like, I had made some, but honestly, I didn't see it as questionable. When she said it initially, I'm thinking, she's just talking about me and her relationship, not really putting together that, she was really talking about the fact that me and her broke up. The fact that we were going through what we were going through. And, I'll leave it at that. But, she said, yeah, my daughter has made some really questionable choices. And she was like, which is leading me to say to you that she wants you to pray. She's like, you can be mad at me all you want, but don't turn your back on God, following your faith, basically. And Theresa, she asked, does that resonate? And I said, yeah. And she's like, what does she mean by that? And I said, well, I was born in the church, raised in the church. Um, you know, I was like, but I'm not religious anymore. I said, but I'm very spiritual. And I said, I do still believe in God. And this whole situation had me once again questioning, like, what the fuck? Like, I talk to God like God is a person, even though I know God is no deity. But, like, sometimes you have to have like a for real long conversation. Like, why you like, what did I do for this and this and that to happen? Like, why is my life so fucked up, type deal, right? So she, said, don't, basically, not to lose my faith, not to lose my walk with God. And then she asked me about some jewelry for a long, long, long time. I do believe I still have that bag of jewelry. I do. I actually, there's a bracelet that my mom had, that I wear from time to time, but because it's costume jewelry, and because it's been worn so many times, I don't wear it as much as I used to. But I can't wear fake jewelry. I do wear a lot of fake earrings, but baby, I be paying for it. But my skin can't take fake jewelry. So this bracelet, I wear from time to time still, even though it's been like worn. So, I'm thinking, she's talking about the bag of jewelry, or she's talking about this bracelet. But then Theresa says it's generational, and I'm just thinking, like, and like, what does that mean, generational? The thing that popped up in my head was, but because she said jewelry, it's like, okay, but this isn't jewelry though. But so Things Remembered was like the store that they had, right? Where you can go in and you can make keepsakes, like sterling silver keepsakes and things like that. So one year my cousin had made all the aunts this tree, and the tree it looks like jewelry. It looks like jewelry. But when Theresa said generational, that's what popped into my head. But I told Theresa that it had to be the bag. And then after, it's like, but because in the middle of it, like when it was happening, I kept seeing the tree. I kept seeing that tree. The tree is basically, it's a generational tree. All the siblings are on the tree, and my grandmother and my grandfather are at the top of the tree. Girl, my allergies are like bothering me. But they are at the top of the tree, and all the siblings are coming down, and the leaves are hearts, and they kind of sway. It looks like jewelry. It does. So while she's talking to me about jewelry, and this tree is popping up in my head, I'm telling Theresa, yes, I still have a bag of her jewelry, and I do still, like, I wear it. I do wear it, like that bangle I was talking about. But the tree is still popping in my head. So that basically is the thing that I have correlated with what she was talking about. It had to be what she was talking about, right? Because the word generational, I honestly cannot think of anything else at the moment that speaks to generational outside of my mom's jewelry and outside of that tree. So then she mentions the Bible. Me and my mom used to have a lot of conversations. Like, we would spend hours on the phone. Like, when I was a kid, right? And my mom was the aunt, that taught us everything. You know, we would listen to tapes in the car, Christian tapes, Sesame Street tapes. Like it was a thing. It was a thing. That's all you need to know. It was a thing, and it's a memory that, you know, lives with all of us because it was such a good memory or such a positive memory. Hell, we even still remember some of the songs that, you know, uh, would come on the tapes. So, um, but outside of that, you know, as I got older, my mom, me and my mom, you know, we would have these um, long conversations about God, about the afterlife, about, you know, um, spirit, spirituality. Um, you know, my mom was not a Baptist. She was a New Thought Christian. And so, you know, she believed heavily in reincarnation. And so we would just have these discussions um, about God and about life and about the universe and about how things work, how things die and come back, how things never leave, how things transition. And she used to always tell me, Peaches, if I ever come back after I've passed away, always know that it's never to hurt you. It's to always tell you something. You know, she's like, I'll never come back to hurt you. I would always come back. If I'm going to come back, I'm going to come back to warn you about something or to tell you something. She's like, but I would never come back to hurt you. So when Theresa said about the Bible, at the time, I'm like, yeah, she keeps the Bible. It's just like a small Bible on the side. And then she always used to have these things called the Daily Inspiration. And then me and my mom, actually my family, what happened was in our church, we sang the Lord's Prayer. And it's a way that we sang the Lord's Prayer. I honestly believe our church started that because nobody was singing the Lord's Prayer the way we were singing it, and now everybody sings it that way. So, but the Lord's Prayer in the 23rd Psalm was something that we heavily relied on, and the power of protection that we relied on when things got heavy, when things went bad. And so, you know, when she mentioned the Bible, and at the time I'm thinking, yes, she had a Bible. Yes, you know, she was like really, you know, spiritual. Like she was really into that, you know. And then she mentioned, you know, again, you know, to not devolve away from my faith. And at the time, I said, you know, all that about, you know, her having a Bible and everything. But it wasn't until after that I realized that the 23rd Psalm, the Lord's Prayer, the power of protection, these are things that we heavily relied on. So spiritually, and, you know, talking about God and talking about things in the Bible and things, that's what I think that she actually meant, you know, because my mom knew by now, like, you know, I've been spiritual for like the last 15 years. Like my spiritual journey, I am still on it. You know, I've had to do a lot of unlearning. I've had to do a lot because I was indoctrinated, you know, and taking that first step out of indoctrination is it almost feels like I'm gonna be set on fire. But it was so much contradiction, you know, that I had to deal with, me being, you know, a black woman, gay, having a partner. Like, it was just so much when all you want to do is be accepted and loved for who you are, you know. And you know, it's sad that, you know, people they fear what they don't understand. I'm normal. I am a normal person that wants to be loved by family, by whomever I come in contact with, that I give my energy to. You know, I bleed like the next person. I hurt like the next person. I have feelings like the next person. You know, but when people rely so heavily on things that they are taught, which I did for so long, and then when I started realizing that that walk wasn't my walk anymore, I honestly felt like I was going to go to hell. But I was being pulled in the direction of spirituality because I had to learn how to take my own individual walk. And it did at one point lead me down a road of and I told my mom this. It did lead me down a road of not believing. You know, like I had a real, man, when I say I had a tough time with God, and this was years ago. I'm nothing like that now. Like, I fully believe in God, and I will always believe in God. I believe in angels. I believe in all of that. I'm just not religious. But yeah, and I think she might have thought, because of what happened with her and my dad and my brother, just the whole situation, and because of how mad I was about how everything played out, that I would go back down that path of not believing again. That's never going to happen, because I stay grounded. I have to stay grounded to deal with life, to deal with daily tasks. You have to have some form of grounding in your life, you know, and that's just what I feel. I can't speak to the next person, you know. I just know me personally, you know, spiritually, you know, I have to rely on the fact that I am protected. You know, I know angels exist because I have seen them, and I have seen, you know, them work. Literally, I have seen them. You know, and some people might think that I'm crazy, but you know, that's your opinion to have. When you have not experienced the things that another person has experienced, you cannot take away from what that person has experienced just based on what the fuck you haven't been through, right? So that essentially, you know, all these thoughts is what I after everything was over, after I had a chance to breathe and take everything in, this is what I gathered. This is what I put together that my mom was actually trying to convey. So let me go back to my notes. I had mentioned, after all that I had mentioned, you know, I really wish that I knew what had happened that night, because I wanted to, you know, to see if what I had thought, my personal opinion, was actually what had happened. So basically, Theresa then says there was a huge argument and everything went wrong. A lot of bad things were said. It was about money. My mom told my brother to get out of the house, and that's when he hit her. You know, I think I said this earlier. I think I read this earlier. But see, this is, ugh, girl, look, okay, sorry. I told you this might happen. Don't judge me. Don't do that. So yeah, you know, when that happened, we went through all of that. We talked about the jewelry. I'm sorry. I didn't turn the page. So we talked about the jewelry. Oh, the other thing was that I thought about with the jewelry, right? Because sometimes with Theresa, you know, things come out as symbols, like she likes to say, is symbols, but it means something. And then I thought, when, especially when she said generational, my mom was a big knitter. Like, she loves to knit. And I have scarves, I have blankets, I have a baby blanket that she made my daughter. So that was also things that I thought about. Maybe, that might have been a symbol also. You know, not, because again, for her, when she's being shown something, it needs to be validated in a way. So when she said the generational thing, of course, like I said, with the tree, with the jewelry, but then also the blankets, the blankets and the scarf, that I still have, like, that's generational, because one thing was made for my daughter. I have things that were made for me that I passed on to my daughter. So, that was something else that I thought about. She mentioned, have I felt a thump in the bed? Now, this is going back to what I had mentioned earlier, right? So she said, have you heard like something like that, like when you're in bed, like somebody is laying with you? And I'm like, no. I'm like, but I have been experiencing things lately, like feeling like someone's there, like shadows, and it's been a lot of weird shit that's been happening, and my dog, like, he loses his shit a lot. Like, he be standing here, barking at the corner and shit. So, not at the time realizing that that was what I mentioned earlier about yours being here and being by herself, and then she felt somebody sit next to her, but there was no one there. That's what that was. That's what that was. So it's like, yes, that was validated. That was validated. So let me see. Let me go to my notes. I turned the page again. Let's see. My mom wanted me to know she was proud of me. Also said, I mentioned that about the questionable choices in my life. I mentioned that, and I know that, oh yeah, when that happened though, I had pointed to yours, and I again, like, when she said about the questionable choices, I know now what it is that she was trying to say. But then I'm just thinking, it's just about the relationship or whatever, because my mom did struggle with the fact that I was a lesbian. She did, but if it's one thing that she said, no matter what, she said, yes, I had a problem, but she's like, you're my daughter, and at the end of the day, I love you. She's like, and that'll never change. So my mom supported me. My mom loved me. She loved me unconditionally. And she grew to love Eurus. She grew to love her, and Eurus became another daughter to her. Like, they had such a good relationship. And it really warmed my heart, because after Eurus lost her mom, my mom became like her mom. She would make her food and, spend time with her, talk with her on the phone. I think she was a good placeholder to help yours, in her time, because she had a really rough time, after her mom passed away. I think she felt a lot of guilt because she wasn't there. She had been there just a couple of weeks earlier, because her mom stayed in Tennessee, and she had just been there a couple of weeks earlier, before she died. So she held a lot of guilt, because she never wanted her mom to die alone, and her mom did die alone. But for so many reasons, I think they decide to go when no one's there on purpose. I do think that when that happens, especially if the parent knows how fragile the child is. Um, Seeing your parent take their last breath can really shake a person, um, especially if you don't know how to handle it, right? So, you know, like I said, it was a lot of there's a lot of turmoil that was brought into our relationship behind that. As much as I tried to be there, it was always she's pushing me away. And eventually, yes, we are working things through. um but I believe that it was something that we had to go through, because it was something that she had to come to her own conclusions about how to move through life without her mom. So, I was blessed, and I was happy that at the very least my mom was able to provide uh, some sort of comfort uh, to her, because I honestly believe it helped her. Um, Wish it could have helped a little bit more, but I think in the end, after everything, it did what it had to do. It just had to go through the motions that it needed to go through. Um, I talked about the Bible. Um, and then she said it again about I can be mad at her, but please do not be mad at God. And just to remember to rely on my faith. Um, um, and that essentially was it. She mentioned about, was there a father departed? And of course, I lost my dad in February, 5 months after I lost my mom. And regardless of, again, who my father was, at the end of the day, he loved us the way that he knew how to love us. And unfortunately, that did not it did not compute in the way that it would or should a normal person. I unfortunately picked up a lot of those bad habits, you know, emotionally, you know, and that's something that I have worked every day of my life to not be like. I still struggle with it, and I probably will always struggle with it because I don't know any better. But just like I had to come to that conclusion about me, I had to come to that conclusion about him. You know, he only he was the way he was, the way he was brought up. That's how he was. He only acted, according to what he knew. And though it's not something that I would like wish, to have happened, it happened, and it is what it is. So when she said, there's a father energy stepping through, my dad was still, regardless of anything, he was still a very quiet man. He was quiet. He had a very quiet strength about him. And he wasn't a man of many words, emotions, or anything like that. He was very just type A. So when she said he was stepping forward, It wasn't, there wasn't a lot of words that were said. Just that um, he was proud, and that, you know, he was acknowledging my life's choices, um, and that, you know, she said he was standing behind me along with, you know, some others, and they were saluting me. And, you know, she said that's my symbol for, you know, that they are on board with how you are living your life, and that they support your decisions. Um, and though there were no like real words like said in the moment, it's like I wanted him to say something else, but when I thought about it later on, I was like, that's my dad. Why? Because my dad was not a man of many words. He didn't speak like that. You know, like, I don't know what it was about him, you know, that, you know, if he showed emotion, he might have thought it was weak or being weak or something like that. So he wasn't like that. He just wasn't built like that, you know? Um, but yeah, that that happened last night. And when I left with, and make no mistake, right? I'm still very much like sad, right? But the amount of sadness, the amount of guilt, the amount of holding things in, the stress that you see on my face, shit in my hair, like, I feel so much lighter after last night. I don't even know how to put it into words. The gift that Theresa gave me last night. She gave me an amazing gift of release. I have to go every day of my life since this has happened, and not be able to talk about it, to not release it, to get opposition everywhere when you think about releasing a video. Because if I think about it, yes, I wanted to release these videos, but I wanted to release them at the wrong time. It was the wrong time because I was filled with anger. I was filled with anger. And nothing is misplaced. Don't get it twisted. My anger is very much placed in where it's supposed to be. However, if I am going to do this, I'm going to do it right. And I'm going to do it when I feel like my spirit is in a more settled position. And I feel like I'm there. I feel like my mom gave me clearance, because yelling out when Theresa said, you do not have to disclose what happened, I know that my mom had told her what happened. And she's like, you don't have to say anything if you don't want to. And when I screamed out, my brother killed my mother, it was almost like the exhale that I have needed. It was like, and all I could do was call on God in that moment. I was damn near on my knees out of my seat. At least 2 or 3 times I know I wanted to just get up out my seat and just run, because I just, everything. And unless you experience what it is that we all experienced last night, it would be hard for you to comprehend what it is that I'm saying, everything that I'm saying. But last night when we got home, hell, shit, on the ride home, I mean, I go to bed early, so, but usually if I'm out, and I know I gotta drive home, you know, um, I'm tired, but I'm not like, how when you have like a boost of adrenaline and you like going, and then once everything calms down, it's like you start crashing. That's how it was last night driving home. And I thought to myself, I said, I think I'm gonna sleep good tonight, because I can't tell you the last time I had a good night's sleep. Last night was the first night I actually slept in. I slept past 6 o'clock. I didn't wake up to damn near 10 o'clock. I think it might even been after 10 o'clock. And that was some of the best sleep I have had in a long time. When you are so restless in your spirit and in your heart and your mind, and the way my anxiety is set up, especially after everything that has happened, and the thoughts are rampant. I have it. It's almost like a sandstorm of thoughts. It's hard for me to just pull one. Yeah. So that is what I've had to deal with. And last night, my mom gave me permission to release. And that is what I am doing. This video was made in response to all the positive feedback I got last night. I got so many hugs last night. And they were genuine hugs. And sometimes, when people say they need a hug, and you get you a hug, but sometimes it's just so superficial. It's not. It's just superficial. I got the love I got last night. I think I needed it. I think I needed to feel like somebody gave a damn, like genuinely gave a damn about what had happened, the circumstances behind it, even though they did not know everything. Now they do. But, and this ain't even everything, but this is just part of it. But they know more than they did last night after this video. So this is the answer to the questions that I got last night in regards to my reading and all the love that I got last night from the audience. Um, Everybody that hugged me last night, everybody that supported me last night, I appreciate you and I thank you. And you guys, along with my mom, have literally like set me free in a way. And I, upon releasing, I need to make a side note because I will be releasing videos, the past videos that I made, and I also be, releasing other videos. I wanted to write a book about my experience because, there's a mental health aspect to all of this. There is um, there's a family uh, dynamic to all of this. It's very layered, my experience, and I know that I'm not the only person that has gone through something like this, and I'm not gonna be the last person. But the thing is that we have always been conditioned to not speak about our experiences. A lot of us have been conditioned not to speak about our experiences and to hold everything close to the vest and hash. Hell, that's probably why half of us is walking around here crazy because we don't talk about things. We just deal and go about life like nothing is bothering us when everything is bothering us. Seeking out help, seeking out a therapist, that was my first step. And it's sad that I don't have family that I can talk to. The people that I thought I could actually talk to, it would, and you can't detract from my experience and the things that I have been through, because I know somebody gonna say again that it's me, but I don't feel like talking, not to them, not about any of this. Why? Because it's always gonna be some negative shit that happens, whether it's being said to me or it's being said behind my back. And as I mentioned in one of my other videos, the fuck it button is, yeah. Mm-mm. I only want to deal in genuineness. I only want to deal in positivity. I don't like to be told that I'm an attention seeker. But I got feelings. Sorry if y'all feel that I'm an attention seeker. But these are the people that I should have been able to rely on. But this is also why so many people, not just me, but people in general, decide to retreat and not say nothing and just deal with life as it comes. Because negativity, sometimes a person don't need to be told nothing. Sometimes a person just needs for you to be there. Sometimes a person just needs love and understanding from a genuine place. I am no angel. I am not perfect. I got so many flaws. But if I'm talking to you or if you are confiding in me about anything, I'm giving you a genuine answer, a genuine response. I don't, and I have never been that type of person to make someone else feel less than when they are in turmoil about anything. For my mental health, I have made the choice to remove myself because it's what I need to do. My mom told me last night that she wants me to learn to not learn, but to forgive. I need to work on forgiving. I need to work on releasing. Because I have a lot of anger about what happened. She knows and she sees the anger that I have and how it has really fucked my life. Like, it's really had such an impact. Everything that has happened, from her being hurt to how family has treated me. And like, I just, yeah. She acknowledged all of that last night. And yet she wants me in her way, like she always does, to open my heart and forgive, not just them, but myself. And I feel like this is a start to that. I by no means want to be messy. The only way it's going to get messy is if somebody come in and try to detract what it is that I'm saying based on your experience and not mine. Because again, you can't tell me how to feel when you say stuff to me or do things to me. How you make me feel, how you do things to a person can affect them. And I don't care if I am the type of cuss a motherfucker out. I don't care. I'm not going to be phony about anything. If I don't fuck with you, I don't fuck with you. Period. I don't sit there and be in your face smiling and hee hawing and you know, trying to have, you know, conversation and then go behind your back and start talking shit about you. Who the fuck does that in their 40s? Anyway, I still got work to do, y'all. I got work to do. I'm not even gonna hold you. I know I got work to do. But I just wanted to hop on here and I'm giving myself the permission to try to heal. Last night, it's really going to start my healing process. So, don't eat me up too bad in the comments. And my delete and block is strong, honey. If anybody had questions or, you know, situations, you know, similar to mine and, you know, want to talk, the inbox is open. Because getting through this thing called life is already hard enough, but it's even harder when you don't have nobody to really talk to. So, um, yeah. Thank you for listening.